One of the most anticipated moments that awaits us in the future of Boruto is the return of Momoshiki. Before the timeskip, Momoshiki was a top tier menace. If he awakened, it was a given that bodies were going to drop. Momoshiki was always rocking that supreme black force energy, especially when he took over Boruto's body. And after 3 years of him being hidden away, if he were to awaken, then he would definitely be out for blood, no questions asked. So I want to go over how I think Momoshiki will be reintroduced into the story, also how long it's going to take for him to actually come back, and also what's going to happen with his character in the future of Boruto. And just to let you know, I do under no circumstances support the idea that Boruto and Momoshiki will end up teaming up. So absolutely do not expect me to cover that in this video, and also please don't go commenting it, because I really just don't even want to think about that as a possibility. Anyways, if you do go on to enjoy this video, then make sure to smash that like button just to help this get pushed out to more and more people, and also be sure to subscribe if you want to help support the channel and get recommended more of my videos in the future. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers and I need each and every one of your guys' support to reach that goal. So I think the most likely option for Momoshiki's return is to be through the use of Boruto's karma. If Boruto uses his karma, the likelihood is that Momoshiki will make some form of appearance, whether it be through a vision of Boruto's or just straight up taking over his body. But this does mean that Boruto will need to use his karma for us to see this happen though, which we know he is very hesitant to do, because last time it happened it cost him his sensei Sasuke's life, and because of how it has mentally scarred Boruto in the past as well, where Momoshiki taking over his body has put his friends and family in danger many times. Also, Kashinkoji clearly doesn't want Boruto to use his karma, likely implying that he knows if Boruto were to use his power, it would inevitably lead Boruto to lose control, or just to straight up lose consciousness like described in chapter 16. Making it very clear that Boruto isn't just going to randomly decide all of a sudden, how about I just use my karma now? Something is either going to provoke him or force him into a position where he has to use it, or something will happen similar to what we saw in chapter 9, where there is a resonance between Boruto and Kawaki's karma, which will then cause Boruto's to manifest. And I think both options have a case to be made. On one hand, I think it's clear that Kawaki is going to be stronger than Boruto after he gets his limiters adjusted. So if Kawaki decides to switch up on Boruto, then he might force him into a position where he has to use his karma in order to defend himself. And also, since Kawaki is a karma merchant, you could also argue that if Kawaki and Boruto ever fight alongside one another, Kawaki using his karma would cause Boruto's to manifest like I described earlier, which if Boruto doesn't deal with it very quickly, then the door opens for Momoshiki to make his re-entry into the story. But I actually think there is instead a more plausible option, as arguably if Boruto did feel like he was in danger of his karma manifesting, he could run away using the flying Raijin. Instead, maybe Momoshiki will come after this Sand Village mission arc in what I think will actually be a training arc. I think the story will be in a very weird spot after this current arc takes place, where Boruto and Kashinkoji are not able to make a move on Jura right now, purely because they just aren't strong enough. And I think what will instead take place is almost like a training arc. We will likely be able to see the mangekyou sharingan powers in the coming chapters, but I'm sure it will come with some big drawbacks, and Sarada likely won't be proficient in using it just yet. Meaning that during the training arc after this mission, she will either train with Chakra on how to negate the effects of this dojutsu, or maybe even Kakashi on how to use the mangekyou sharingan directly. And then Himawari would likely train with Sakura on how to properly use her healing capabilities. And after this training arc, perhaps we see a bunch of different people who get consumed by claw grime and then turned into Shinju, allowing us to see the new power-ups that everyone will have just got from this training arc to be showcased in the battle against the new Shinju, where it will show us directly that their new strength has allowed them to be able to fight on par with the Shinju. But during this arc, I think that Boruto and Kawaki will also train together. If Kawaki is indeed stronger than Boruto, then he will be the only person who can contain Momoshiki if he were to take over Boruto's body. Now, there is nothing to say that Kawaki wouldn't just straight up kill Boruto if he were to be taken over, but perhaps to negate the damage to others, these two could train in a different dimension, where they don't have to worry about Boruto being taken over and killing his friends and family. Also, Kawaki was the first person to teach Boruto on how to use his karma properly in part 1, so maybe to parallel that, Kawaki once again may train Boruto on how to enhance his control over his karma, in order to get Boruto to a level where they can actually try and fight Jura. And I think Kawaki is the perfect candidate for this, since he has already shown that he has a very good understanding on how the karma actually works. And I think this will be the most likely way for us to see Momoshiki once again. He could either literally take over Boruto once again, and this would then cause a rematch of Borushiki versus Kawaki, or because Boruto would be using his karma again, both during and after this training arc, it would once again bring Momoshiki's conscience out of Boruto, where Boruto and Momoshiki would be able to share the same headspace again. This means that in terms of when Momoshiki is returning to the story, I don't think it will likely happen during this Sand Village mission arc, since I think the story will try and focus more on people like Sarada and Kawaki on that mission instead. But once that mission is over, I think very shortly after we will pivot back to Boruto and his conflict with the Karma and Momoshiki. So definitely be ready for the Momoshiki arc after this, because I'm sure it will hit like a truck, both metaphorically and literally. However, there's also the chance that Momoshiki manages to connect with Boruto without him even having to use the Karma. He may do this to relay information to Boruto himself, whether it's about the jougan or about how to use his Karma properly, but I think due to the amount of resentment Momoshiki holds towards Boruto, he won't go out of his way to try and help Boruto grow in terms of power unless it inadvertently benefits himself in some sort of way. Is that I definitely think Momoshiki has been scheming during these whole 3 years. And when his time arises, all hell is going to break loose. Bodies are going to drop, fans are going to be shocked, Momoshiki is a literal ticking time bomb. Very reminiscent of how Kurama was in Naruto before Naruto was able to properly utilize his power. I think there'll be a period in between where Boruto is able to fully suppress Momoshiki, where he will serve as a massive threat to Boruto and the people around him, to parallel that of what Naruto had to go through. But what could Momoshiki actually be scheming during the 3 years, as I'm sure he has something devious up his sleeve. We all know that Momoshiki's ultimate plan was to take over Boruto after he lost everything due to omnipotence, and fell into a pit of despair. Luckily, Sasuke defied fate itself and was able to pull Boruto out of the depths and inadvertently preventing Momoshiki from pushing Boruto to the back of his own mind. But in the time after this plan failed, we haven't even had a peep from Momoshiki. And Boruto himself even said this, he has not even heard anything from Momoshiki, which he noted was rather unusual for Momoshiki to be so damn quiet during these 3 years. And this is likely because Boruto hasn't used his Karma, meaning that Momoshiki's conscience has faded quite significantly. But this doesn't necessarily mean that he hasn't been able to see the things that Boruto's been able to see, which may also mean that Momoshiki was made a singularity of fate, where he also knows the knowledge that Kashin Koji has been telling Boruto. This then begs the question as to whether Kashin Koji is aware of this and is preventing certain knowledge from falling into Momoshiki's hands. But that is something the story hasn't fully gone over yet, so that is still slightly unclear. But regardless, I'm sure Momoshiki has enough knowledge about the future that puts him in a position where taking over Boruto's body is very risky for their situation. Also, just consider how insanely strong Boruto has become in his base. Momoshiki was able to wreak insane levels of havoc inside of a kid Boruto, whose knowledge of ninjutsu wasn't that extensive, he wasn't that durable, and realistically in Boruto's base you could highball him at probably a Kage level. But now Boruto is rivaling the likes of Ishiki and Barrier Mode Naruto, simply just in his base. So if Momoshiki was to take over, god damn, that is definitely something to be worried about. Probably why Kashin Koji was so quick to react to Boruto's Karma manifesting, because Boruto losing control, especially being so Kawaki hadn't had his limiters removed at that point, is bad news. Because nobody besides possibly Damon could stop a modern day Borushiki. And I think going slightly abstract here, there is a possibility that Momoshiki tries to team up with Jura, where Jura will give Momoshiki a similar deal to what he gave Code, kill Kashin Koji and I'll give you the chakra fruit of this planet. I mean, I think that's unlikely, but I think that's an option that we can't entirely rule out. And I think whatever Momoshiki actually plans to do with Boruto's body, it will become a massive focal point of the story until the Jougan shows up, which will allow Boruto to then fully suppress Momoshiki. However, even after the Jougan comes about, Momoshiki I don't think will be fully gone from the story. Since I've seen in the comments of my Jougan video, somebody said that even if the Jougan allows Boruto to fully suppress Momoshiki, what if it drains his chakra to the point where he can't actually use it anymore to suppress Momoshiki, and since he is already low on chakra, it gives Momoshiki the opportunity to take over his body, which I think is definitely a real possibility, and it gives a pathway to keep Momoshiki relevant even after he has seemingly been dealt with. And I think it definitely makes sense for Boruto to run low on chakra after using the Jougan, since this is supposedly the Otsutsuki God Dojutsu, or the final and most powerful dojutsu out of all of them so far, meaning that I'm sure it will come with its fair share of drawbacks, one of them probably being the constant drain of Boruto's chakra supplies, which also is something which seems to be forgotten about in Boruto. Nowadays, everybody seems to spam abilities as much as they please, and chakra really hasn't been a consideration of anybody's in quite a long time. The writers tried to reintroduce that concept when Boruto was low on chakra and Momoshiki would take over, but that wasn't really played on an awful lot. And the most recent moment I can remember where the chakra was actually relevant, and this was when Kawaki was using Ichiki's dojutsu abilities a little bit too much, where it completely drained his chakra, meaning that without Ada's help he was unable to escape. But I think that this will be a big factor with the Jougan, which also will give Boruto a time limit on using this power, and also limits the use of the main ability I think this eye will have, which is omnipotence, where Boruto can't just constantly use his ability because using it will take a massive toll on his chakra reserves. And I think this means that we can assume that Momoshiki will continue to be a threat for a very long time, even after Boruto gains measures in order to prevent him from re-emerging. However, that is going to be a wrap for this video. I know it's a bit of a shorter one, but I'm getting very busy with work outside of YouTube, and unfortunately I'm not getting enough money from YouTube where I can prioritize that over my actual job. So I'm having to make a backlog of videos at the moment, which means that some of them unfortunately can't be as long or as in depth as they normally are. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed, and I don't think there was actually too much I needed to add anyways, as Momoshiki just seems to be a topic on everyone's mind at the moment, so I wanted to quickly go over my thoughts on that matter. And if you want me to do a video going more in depth in Momoshiki's role in the story in the future, then make sure to let me know, as I'm not sure whether that's a topic you guys would be interested in. But as always, make sure to comment your thoughts on the Momoshiki situation and anything you want to add or disagree with in the comments down below. And whilst you're down there, if you did enjoy this video, then make sure to like the video just to let me know that you guys are enjoying the content, and it also helps this video gets pushed out to more and more people. Also, if you want to see more content like this, then subscribing just lets YouTube know that you want to see more of my content in the future. And it helps us get closer to our goal of 2,000 subscribers, as we are so close to reaching that milestone. Anyways, with that all said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.